Bella Salon and Day Spa, located at 41 West Main Street in Northeast Pennsylvania, proudly supports Chautauqua Sunrise and its volunteers. More information at bellasalonanddayspa.net. Funding is provided by a grant from New York State Senator Catherine M. Young, representing Western New York's 57th District with a local office in Olean. Chautauqua Sunrise is made possible by a grant from Fredonia Place, a continuing care retirement community providing dignity in a modern luxury environment. From the Access Channel 5 studios in Mayville, it's Chautauqua Sunrise. Chautauqua Sunrise is hosted by Doc Hamels and supported by the award-winning volunteers at Access Channel 5. Continuing the traditions of Senior Report, we are here to share local news, colorful interviews, and events of interest to everyone. Chautauqua Sunrise is broadcast live Saturday mornings each week, countywide, from 9 to 10 a.m. Join us by calling in live, emailing us, or checking out our social media. And now, from the Channel 5 studios, it's Chautauqua Sunrise.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Chautauqua Sunrise. I'm Doc Hamels, and we're so glad that you could join us this week. We got a great guest coming up on the show, and we'll get to him in a little bit, but I got some things I want to share with you as always. And if you have an event and an announcement for your organization, a birthday, an anniversary, anything like that, give us a call. And you can Twitter us, you can email us, you can Facebook us, and you can do old school, and you can call us at 753-5225. In fact, let's just kick off the whole thing right now with a birthday. I understand a very special lady living over in Lakewood, right? Lakewood? At the Randall home on Hunt Road. And I can't believe she's this old. You know, you're not supposed to tell the age of ladies, but I'm going to do this anyways because I can't believe she's 55. I've known this lady for a long time, and her brother works here with us at the studio. Happy birthday, Lori Burt. It's your day. I hope you're having a lot of fun and that you're going to do something special. Randy baked you a cake, I'm sure, and he'll be bringing it over after the show. I've seen his cooking, Lori, and you might just, take a picture of it and set it aside. Okay. Anyways, that's how simple it is. If you have a birthday or whatever, call in. Send us an email. I got my iPad right here. I get Twitter announcements as we go through the show, so if you're shy, you can do all those sorts of things. You can get to us. Right off the bat, I don't know about you guys, and I know this happens every year, but I'm still in shock. I woke up somewhere like 6:30 this morning, and it was nighttime. I went back to sleep, 7 o'clock, it was still nighttime. I can't wait for daylight savings time to hit again. Boy, it is dark. Which reminds me, Halloween's coming up, folks, and so let's be vigilant. This coming Friday is Halloween, and look out for those little goblins and ghosts that are zooming around your neighborhoods, especially at this time of the year. It's going to be really dark out, and they're getting ready to go to school in the morning in their costumes. They can't see you. You have to look for them. Moms and dads, make sure you put those reflective materials on their arms and legs and flashlights, okay? Along those lines, I do know 2 times for 2 towns, and I'm assuming most towns are going to be similar to this, but I know Ripley for sure is going to have trick-or-treating from 6 to 8, and Westfield is going to have a parade, which is going to culminate at the fire hall, and I believe that starts at 6 o'clock. I think the parade starts at 5:30, and refreshments are at 6 o'clock, starting at 6 o'clock. I'll get to this. I can say this. It's early in the morning. I got to get my mouth working. It's 6 o'clock at the Westfield Fireman Hall there, and our Rotary Club, the Westfield Mayville Rotary Club, is providing refreshments free of charge, and so get some cider and donut holes and all that good stuff, and that's always a lot of fun. And if anybody else knows of hours for Halloween, call in and we'll announce it, okay? We want everybody to know the hours and to be safe out there. All right, so we got grape harvest almost over, and wow, no snow, hardly any rain to speak of. Of course, the farmers might argue with me because maybe they got equipment stuck out there, but really, it's been a pretty good harvest. I talked to one grape farmer the other day and said, yeah, it's been pretty good, not bad. And you might say, so what? Grape industry, farming industry is a big, big deal here in Chautauqua County, and it's a lot bigger than you realize in the millions and millions of dollars that support our towns and our communities and tax base and so forth. So keep going, grape farmers. I hope you have a good harvest finale here and all goes well for you. Okay, form of announcements. Town of Terror, last night tonight. Last night I was over there and I was in my usual outfit. Someone, yep, there it is. It's from 7:30 to 10:30 tonight. Tickets are $10 at the door. I gotta tell you, I saw full-grown adults last night scared out of their wits. Okay, a good scare, fun scare. They were laughing, but they also were very frightened. So if you really are into Halloween and you like to have some entertainment, $10. It supports the Children's Safety Education Village there in Asheville at the same property as the BOCES Center, Ryan 394. And it's just a great program. And I think somewhere almost 700 people have gone through now. And I'm hoping Jess is going to, the coordinator of the project, is going to give us a call later and give us an update. They are going to have trick or treat on Wednesday, and we'll ask her about that. I believe it's around 5:30, 6 o'clock, and the various organizations that sponsor their buildings over there are going to have candy for the kids. So a nice, safe environment for kids to go trick-or-treating. But the Town of Terror is not for little kids. 12 years on up, and up to 100 anyways. And then last night, I'm not sure if this is a compliment or not, but I have a particular mask, and they'll pop that picture up in a second because they keep flashing it throughout the month this month. But this is what I look like. And someone said that I look like Bubba J that had gone apocalyptic. I look like Bubba J that's gone zombie. What do you think? Anyways, that was my job for the last 3 weekends. And if you see that character, it could be me. I'm not going to tell you where I am there, but that's just one example of the costuming. They have a cast of probably 60 volunteers that come out, whether they're high schoolers or college or full-grown adults that really get into it. I'm a board member of the Safety Village, so that's part of our volunteer responsibilities. But anyways, great time. Get out there and have some fun. Hey, you know, last week we did the debates right here, or a debate, I should say. Excuse me, debate. Last year was debates. We had Andy Goodell and Barry Yoakum. And if you missed it, you can go to a website that they will pop up, which is usually ac5@weebly.com or org or something. I can never get that right. But anyways, it's our Access 5 website, and you can go there, or you can look up Destination Chautauqua County on YouTube, and it should come up there. Debates. Oh, we don't have it. All right. Well, it's out there anyways. If you go to the Access 5 website, they will create it for me. I have voices in my head. I kind of was just thinking about the whole political thing, and our guest that will be on today is a veteran of this, but we won't get to that quite yet. But I was just sort of thinking about the races and how this is all going. You know, to run in politics, it's a lot of work. I was looking at all the signs and the people that are doing the phone calling and trying to raise funds and doing the debates and having to eat chicken dinner after chicken dinner and talk to all the various civic organizations. That's a lot of work. But nonetheless, I just thought about how the races are going right now. And it seems like Cuomo and Astorino, they're duking it out, and they're, you know, throwing dirt at each other. And I saw an ad where one of them was moving dirt off their picture. So that's the usual mudslinging there. Big stakes, of course, at the governorship. And then I was thinking about the Goodell and Yoakum race. And the interesting thing is, it's a very different race in that Andy is passionate about what he's doing, and he wants to return to the assembly. And Barry Yoakum, he's not running against Andy. He's running for himself, which I think is quite interesting and very noble on his part. He's not doing mudslinging, and he's simply debating the issues, and he takes his position, and that's where he stands. He's not saying Andy's this or that, and Andy's not doing the opposite. So good for you guys. The debate was really nice. It was wholesome. And the thing that I found interesting is they were very much on the same page on a number of issues. So in order to find out where they're different, the Post-Journal's been running the debates that they had on various topics, fracturing and the SAFE Act and so forth, and there were some questions about core curriculum and so forth. We covered those here in the debate, so if you want to see them and you listen to them, check out the debate. It was a really, really nice, and they did a good job. The other race that I find extremely interesting is the Jurassic Payne race. I ran into Joe last night. He volunteers at the Safety Village as well, and he kind of shrugged his shoulders when I asked him about debates, because he went to the Women's League of Voters and he debated himself. His opponent, Russ Payne, has declined 5 different debates. So that's an interesting strategy. I'm not sure what the strategy is there, but sometimes if you don't show up in public and you don't present yourself, maybe that's sort of like the dark horse strategy. I'm not sure. Kathy Young is having an interesting race. Seems that she was endorsed by all 5 parties, I guess someone was saying today. So that tells you the strength and the popularity of Kathy Young, so we wish her another good term. And I was thinking of the time when I ran for county legislature, way back when Mark Thomas ran for his 3rd term. We both had unsatisfying results that year. But I remember that I had this picture that was just a real serious looking picture, and I think that was my downfall. It had to be. People said I looked like Charles Manson because I had this real serious look, and I said, well, I was going to look pensive. And well, anyways, everything these folks do, whether what color the shirt they wear, the tie, what they say in public, they're on pins and needles the whole time. And I don't envy politicians at all. It's just a lot of work. So anyways, the message I want to tell you is appreciate them, whether you like them or not, and get out and vote for the person you want. Vote for the person that you feel that you have an accord with, a kinship with, because it shouldn't be a popularity contest just because you know the person. You should vote because of the right person for the job. That's my 2 cents. Hey, Facebook folks, hey, we are up to 129 likes as of about 20 minutes ago. I want to thank folks that are clicking our likes out there. We're trying to establish our presence on Facebook, and we're doing a great job. If you would like to go to our Facebook site, we're including now pictures and little commentaries about the show and things that are coming up. And I know we have that website that you can go to. It's basically Chautauqua Sunrise on Facebook. And if you want to get messages from me and Chris about what's going on from week to week, get out there and click on there, and we appreciate that. Let's see, what else is going on here? I guess the only other thing is that we're wrapping the month up of October with breast cancer awareness. And once again, without belaboring the point, I really encourage you, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any concerns about a lump or a feeling that's not correct in your breast area or chest area, get it checked out. I have known people that waited way too long, and then they ended up with radical mastectomies or worse, and it's a quality of life issue. It's treatable in most cases, and get out there and talk to your doctors. Don't wait. So let's wrap things up. You're watching Chautauqua Sunrise. I'm Doc Hamels. Look left. Okay, why am I left? Hey, what the? Thank you, guys. Okay. Thank you, guys. All right, compose myself here. Okay, we're going to get a photo op on this. All right, we're going to get our picture taken real quick. You guys, you never know what's going to show up on our Facebook either. I was looking at a 7-foot pigeon the other day. So anyways, I'm Doc Hamels. You're watching the fun and frolics at Chautauqua Sunrise, and our guest, Jim Subjack, will be joining me here momentarily. This public service announcement, PSA, is for you.
I remember the moment.
I'll never forget that moment.
That changed my life.
At that moment, it hit me. This is why I joined the Guard. We're soldiers, always ready to protect our country. But we've also got communities. Family, friends, neighbors who count on us. I couldn't believe it. I just saved a life. Somebody from my hometown.
See what it means to be a citizen soldier at NationalGuard.com.
Oh my gosh. You haven't lived until you've been a show host, and you're dealing with props that you don't even know are coming down on top of you here. Yikes. Okay. Our guest today is Jim Subjack. He has been no stranger here at Access 5. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Doc. Nice to be here.
This is your debut on Chautauqua
It
Sunrise,
is.
but
It
you were
is.
probably on the senior report with Reed and myself, what, about 50 times or something
Seems
like
that way. It was always a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to this
Oh,
one,
yeah.
too.
Well, we're continuing the tradition of Reed, except I don't do the cat food.
And the one other thing I hope you haven't done, you don't have any fresh leaks or anything?
No. I banned that. That was part of my contract. No leaks.
That was the one show that was very difficult to do because I'm gagging on the leek smell. And they're tasty, I agree, but oh my God.
You were in here at the studio, sitting with Reed, and Reed's chomping on the leaks. I come in out of the engineering booth to do my 10-minute little spiel off to the side. Your eyes were watering, my eyes were watering.
That's true.
The whole studio is like acrid, and I don't know how Randy put up with it, but it was
Reeked of leaks.
Reeked of leaks. Thank you for sharing that memory. I had almost repressed it. Oh my gosh, Jim, these days, are you appreciating the political machine that's out there? I mean, I mentioned it a little bit ago. That must have been a crazy time for you.
Yeah, it was. There were things about running for office that I found very satisfying. Most
Winning.
Winning was that was a big part of it. But the other part that I enjoyed was going out and meeting people. I still run into people that I met for the first time on the political trails. People that I worked with in the political arena. The people I ran against in the political arena, the people that were opposed to me in the political arena, a lot of them are now my friends, and that was rewarding. That part of it was rewarding. The drudgery of it, the having to raise funds. There's nothing worse, as you know, than having to put the touch on somebody. Hey, you know, I really need money to get my message out. And fortunately, back in those days, because my last election was in 2001. Fortunately, in those days, we actually talked about issues as opposed to the political ads now. Now, you briefly touched upon it, but you look at the ads now. I don't know what Tom Reed, for example, is going to do for us in Congress other than to keep Martha Robertson's liberal, extreme Ithaca agenda out of us. And I'm not sure what she's going to do for us if she's elected other than she's not Tom Reed.
Right.
So I'm not exactly sure
What do they stand for?
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's really disturbing. I want somebody to come forward in these races to say, this is what I have done, or this is what I intend to do, not platitudes, not little generalities. I want to do this, and this is how I'm going to do it. I want to do that, and this is how I'm going to do it. And I understand in short ads on television it's difficult to do, but all the mailers we get from these people, there's really no reason why they can't outline a platform so I know that I'm voting intelligently for one candidate or against another. And that seems to be the norm now in almost every election.
And it's sad.
It is.
You know, you said 2001. I just remembered. You won. Mark and I didn't. Gosh, that was 13 years ago.
It was.
That's hard to believe. Okay, but you know, you're dead on. I remember talking to Vicki Westling, who's been on the show, and we talked very candidly about politics, and I said, what are they doing, you know, the Reed campaign? And she was not happy at the time, and I don't mean to be quoting her, but we had this conversation. I don't think she would disagree with me, and I think she was feeling the same way. Is talk about the issues. Don't talk about people in outer space and that they're out of touch with reality. I mean, you're a lawyer. Why couldn't they sue each other for this stuff? I mean, that's crazy stuff.
Well, now they're public figures, and there's a real high standard set on libel or slander suits against public officials, but public figures. So it's difficult to do, and maybe they ought to relax the standards. But then again, you talk about the lack of free press and the right of free press. If you start having lawsuits indiscriminately brought against the free press, so it's a crazy balance. I'm not sure they've achieved it yet, but one of these days we might.
Okay, so you left the world of politics, and you were a district attorney for how long?
12 years.
12 years. And now you've gone into private practice.
I am.
And you're still privately practicing.
I still am. mostly criminal now these days. It seems, I guess, maybe the experience I had before I was DA and then after I was DA and during I was DA has drawn a lot of people to me to do criminal defense, and pretty much all of my practice is that now. I mean, I've done other things. There's certain things I just don't do at all anymore. I don't do civil litigation anymore because it just takes too long. I don't do family law anymore, mostly because I'm talking about like family court and divorces. My experience with that is that there is never a satisfied party
I was
coming
saying,
out
no
of a
one
divorce.
wins, no matter what, when you go
And
to
I
court.
always tried to explain it at the beginning. You have one pool of assets satisfying one family. And at the conclusion of a divorce, there are now two families. It may be three on one side and one the other, but there's still two families that have to live on that same pool of resources, and you can't run two families as well as you can one on the same amount of money. The other part that many people just never understood, and one of the reasons I don't like divorces, is that somebody may be a lot more at fault than the other, but I've never in all my career seen a 100%, 0% fault divorce. Whether somebody's cheating, there may be, I'm not justifying cheating on a spouse, but if there's cheating, it may be because that spouse has been totally ignored, or has, there's reasons for everything. It may be a 90-10, but they're closer to 50-50, and it's just to a point where parties cannot get along any further. And the longer and harder they battle, if there's young children involved, they're the ones that suffer the most. And I just,
that's sad.
I didn't like doing that anymore.
4 people running for family court. What the heck?
I don't know. I can't understand that.
I don't. How do you? They're like everywhere.
They are. And apparently they're actively running, because I just got another flyer for Jim Spann, who's running on the Working Families Party.
I had that endorsement.
Yeah.
Did you have that one?
I probably did. I'm not sure. But they're running on the Working Families Party. And I like Jim Spann. Jim Spann has been my friend for an awful long time. Actually, I know all 4 of the candidates very well. But I don't know what chance he thinks he has on the Working Families Party of winning the election.
The thinking I remember is if you get that line, then somebody from a party that may not be your party would feel okay about voting for you.
Well, actually, there's some truth to that. The truth to that is, in fact, I'm not going to mention the name, but there was a lawyer in Dunkirk who I knew very well, but I'm a Democrat, as you know, was a rock-hard Republican, and he just said, you know, Jim, I think you're doing a great job as DA, but I can't vote for you because you're a Democrat, which is why I don't think somebody on a minor party line can win.
Right.
But then when the last election I had, I got the conservative endorsement as well as the independents. I got everything but the Republican, and he finally says, Jim, I can finally vote for you because now you can vote. I can vote on a line that I agree with their principles. Now, I'm doing the same job. It doesn't matter what party I am. I'm not involved in party politics. I don't go out and espouse the party line. I do my job. I just happen to be, in my case, a Democrat. My parents were Republicans. I actually ran for public office in 1975 in the city of Dunkirk. And the interesting part about that was in a primary. I was running against the incumbent mayor, or against a former mayor. And my parents couldn't vote for me in the primary because they were Republicans and I was a Democrat. So politics really is, politics doesn't mean anything, but I noticed, and I think this is a pretty fair analysis, there's probably at least 1/3 of the party members in each party that never stray from it.
Right.
Jesus Christ could run as a one party, and Adolf Hitler could vote on the other. If you're a member of the other, you're going to vote for Hitler over Jesus because you're a member of that party.
Right.
And that's why I don't think minor party people can win, because there's too many doctrinaire people of their own party that just won't stray from line A or B.
Well, I alluded to the fact that it could have been my picture that was my downfall, but I shared this once on the air, and I don't know if I ever told you this. The real reason is that God was against me, and St. Jude.
There you go.
I called my mom the day after the election and said I had lost. She goes, "Oh, thank God." And I'm sitting here going like, I'm bruised and battle worn, and I go, "What are you talking about?" She says, "I've been praying for the last few months to St. Jude and every night that you would lose." I said, "How could I win?" My mother was powerful prayer.
Yeah, my mom was too.
And she said, "I was just so worried that you get elected because I know you and you get in all kinds of trouble." I said, "Oh my God!"
You know, if you do your job well, you get in trouble.
Yeah, well, that's true. They say if you have enemies,
You make
then
enemies,
you're standing
that's
up
correct.
standing up for what you believe in. I asked you, Jim, to come on and talk about what I call the sandwich generation issues and legal things. And I pulled off some things off the internet just to kind of get things started, okay? And I know you're doing criminal defense and things like that, but you've spoke very, very well on elder issues and boomer issues and I don't even know what other issues there are, but family issues,
Right.
okay?
Or just because I don't practice them doesn't mean I don't know them.
That's right. You haven't lost everything.
Right.
I thought we would start with the top 10 baby boomer concerns. And a lot of the folks that watch our show are baby boomers. And I'm a baby boomer, you're a baby boomer. You know, it's like I could do a commercial here. But this is like the show on TV where they do the top 10. So I'm going to go backwards. So the top 10 going in reverse order. But first of all, what do you think is the number one issue right now for baby boomers as they grow older?
Retirement.
Okay, you say retirement. Yeah, I'm going to write that down.
Financial security within retirement, not just will
financial-
they or can they.
so you're expanding your answer.
Yeah, everybody plans to retire at some point, or most people
Okay.
do, but can they afford to do that and live comfortably while they're in it?
Okay, so here's the top 10. The top 10 concerns in reverse order was being left alone and lonely.
I can understand that.
Okay, you know, when your spouse passes away or
And
you
one
talk
will,
about divorce,
right.
yeah, eventually, unless you go together. And number 9, inability to work or volunteer.
Physical, mental?
Physical, mental, yeah. Number
8.
but the numbers are weird here. Oh, I see, they're out of order. All right, number 8, ending up in a nursing home.
Yeah, that doesn't really concern me unless I have to go because I'm physically or mentally disabled.
Mm-hmm.
But living in an assisted care facility, it really doesn't bother me. I'd like to be with my wife when that happens, but as long as I'm with other people and I can function, that doesn't scare me.
Okay. But the thing I want us to keep in mind is that if younger folks that are our kids, they're going to take care of us, you got to think about this a little bit, because though we're not there, we will be there.
We will.
And for those that are our age, we're dealing with our parents right now, maybe 70s, 80s, 90s, and on up. These are issues that could be on their mind.
Absolutely.
Let's see. Number 7, becoming a family burden.
I think everybody understands that. You work very hard to make life comfortable for yourselves and your children. And then there comes a point where you have the bulk of the financial responsibility thrown at you, not in the sense that you have to pay for your children anymore, because hopefully they're adults and functioning well themselves, but now you get into that nursing home situation where the costs just become astronomical. You have the medical expense issue, and even with the Affordable Care Act and Medicare, there's still bills that just aren't covered, and there's always that concern, what am I going to do, how am I going to pay them, what's going to happen to my estate, because everybody kind of worries about their estate, even though once they pass, it really doesn't do them any good.
But there are some things you can do.
There are.
And you want to share those?
Well, there's a lot of things you can do early on. There's not a lot of things you can do.
Once you're in the situation.
Yeah, once you're in the situation,
All right.
there's not very much that you can do. So
listen up now. Pay
yeah,
attention.
If you're in the position where you're drawing those nursing home bills and you're paying for them out of your assets, you can try to protect your assets. You can try to create a trust. You can try to transfer property. But if it gets to a point where you've dwindled your estate to a certain level, which changes all the time, Medicaid, which would be the agency that would be paying those bills ultimately, can look back at those transactions and say, whether they are or not, by the way, but can look back, because there's a legal presumption, can look back at those transactions for up to 5 years and say, now, you didn't do that out of love and affection. You did that for no other reason than you were trying to avoid losing your assets and having Medicaid take them. Well, we've decided that that's why you did it, therefore you have to return those assets. So and the 5-year period is such a difficult time to think about. I can't answer the question, nor can probably anybody else, even young people, what will their mental and physical state be in 5 years? I don't know. I hope it's good both physically and mentally. Can I say with 100% accuracy or certainty? Absolutely not. Will I have developed some type of dementia that will require 100% care? Maybe. I hope not, but it's a possibility. So to say that I'm healthy, I'm hale, I'm hearty, I have 5 years, that's no problem, I'm going to live 20 more, and I'm going to be perfectly physically and mentally capable that entire time, well, that's a nice, cheery thought. It's nice to be optimistic, but it may be unrealistic.
Right. It's not one of those things you want to take a bet on.
It is not.
All right, so how do you safeguard your estate? You said a 5-year look back. I know there's a procedure. I'll let you explain it, Because I get confused.
Well, there's a lot of different things, again, you can do. Again, you can't totally safeguard your estate. There's just no way to absolutely
But parts
do
of
that.
it you can.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There are certain funds that are just exempt anyway. The surviving spouse is allowed to keep the house, for example. So if I were to die, Medicaid can't take my wife's house even if all of my assets or our assets have been exhausted. They can't say, well, sorry, ma'am, but we're paying for your husband's care, therefore we're going to take your house. And that just doesn't happen that way. Once she goes, and then, or once she's in the nursing home, then of course they start to draw against it and put liens against it. You can do trusts. You can put trusts and do them to yourselves, as a matter of fact. It's not an extremely complicated process. I mean, it's not just like you walk to a lawyer and say, or go to a bank and say, I want all this property in trust for myself. Well, it's got a little more complicated than that, so you can't just go there and do that and all of a sudden your assets are exempt. And again, you still have that 5 years that you have to worry about it. Creating a trust doesn't change the 5-year look back.
Okay.
So if you put all of your assets into a trust where you're the trust agent that administers the trust on your behalf, that doesn't disqualify Medicaid from saying, that's still our money. You gave it away or you put it in there so we wouldn't be able to take it, even though you need to go into a nursing home and we need to pay your bills. It doesn't work that way.
Is there a threshold for amount of money that you should consider?
Yeah, well,
I mean, if you got $5,000,
don't even worry
don't
about
worry
it.
about it. But
Even if you're a sole surviving spouse, you don't have to worry about the $5,000. You start to worry about, if you're a sole surviving spouse, you're talking about $15,000 in cash and assets. And by the way, if there is, it's probably not likely, but if you even have cash surrender and life insurance, say you wanted to leave money to your kids, buy it through a cash or through a whole life policy, they always do actually, accumulate more each year.
Right.
They have a cash surrender value, and that's actually considered a cash asset, and most people don't even understand that's a cash asset. So that's one of the things they consider. You're up close to $100,000 if you're married before you start to lose everything. They change that all the time. So,
Okay, what about the house? I know that you can do something with a house, and there's the 5-year.
there's the 5-year look back again,
How
but
do you
many.
do that?
Well, that one's actually fairly simple, although you have to understand there's tax consequences when the house is ultimately sold by the children. But you deed it to your children, for example. I have 2. I could deed it to them.
2 kids or 2 houses?
Well, actually, both. I have a house in Arizona and a house here,
Okay.
and a son in California and a daughter in Arizona. But I could deed my wife and I could deed our houses to our children, retaining a life estate to ourselves.
Regardless of which state it is?
Either state allow
So
that.
it's a federal level
It
type
is.
thing? Okay.
So what happens is they are now the owners of the property. They are the title owners of the property, and they actually accept legal responsibility for all of it, including the payment of taxes, the upkeep, and everything else. Although in every life estate situation that I've ever seen, the people who remain there, who are usually the parents, maintain that. They want to make sure their lawn gets mowed. They want to make sure the taxes are paid. They don't want to see somebody come to their door and say, hey, your kids didn't pay the taxes the last 3 years. We now own the property. See ya. So they take that, but they maintain the life estate, which means both of them, by the way, either of them are still alive. It doesn't have to be both. While either of them are still alive, they have the right to remain in that residence no matter what. So the passing of the second spouse or the second parent, that property automatically becomes the property of the children because they own it anyway. Where the tax consequence comes in is the capital gains, and the capital gains is higher in New York, for example, for an out-of-state resident. So for our house in New York, if we were both to pass and they were life estate holders, then my kids would pay a much higher capital gains tax on the sale of that house than had my children both resided in New York. Now, that's not really our concern. Once we're dead, it's up to them to pay the
Right.
taxes.
Deal
but
with it,
but it is a way to preserve it. Now, if we were to sell it, if my wife and I were to sell our principal residence and our secondary residence, we don't have to worry about capital gains.
Right.
Our kids do have to worry about capital gains unless one of them moves in, and there's no chance of that in my family. But my daughter's a professor at Northern Arizona University. My son's in the film business out in California, so they're loving it. And
Yeah,
they come back
right.
and visit, and we're going out there to Christmas time,
Yeah.
spend some time with them, but they're not moving back.
Great. Okay, so the secret is to plan ahead. All right, and this goes, we're talking about the baby boomers, and we're like, we're in our 60s. What's no big deal?
Yeah, and
what is there an age that you kind of suggest?
I'd suggest
I
you
know
start
you said don't worry about the that you can't predict 5 years down the road.
You can't, but I think you really need to start giving it some serious consideration, late 40s, early 50s.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that you can do, for example, in my family history, and I always joked about this, was that my mom had Alzheimer's and had it when she died. My dad died of prostate cancer, and I always used to joke to my friends that I was going to get prostate cancer, forget to go to the doctor, and die. Well, I actually got the prostate cancer. That's been treated. I'm 3 years now free. I go for my third annual checkup next month. No, I'm sorry, in December.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the Alzheimer's is concerned, it's genetic, and I think everybody understands it's genetic. I have concerns whether or not it's going to hit me or one of my siblings. I don't know, and again, we're hoping that, number one, it doesn't. Number two, there's some type of control or cure that they can find for it if and when that gets to that point. But there is long-term care insurance. It's expensive, but nowhere near as expensive ultimately if you're going to spend a lot of time in a nursing facility requiring 24-hour care. So if you're in a place like Memory Gardens in Lakewood, which deals exclusively with dementia patients, that's an expensive proposition. You want to talk about eating up your estate. They don't care that you would want that money to have gone to your children. They're more concerned about being paid for the care that they're providing at the time. So they're going to make sure that you either turn those assets over or you do otherwise. So you ultimately wind up with nothing. The earlier on you get the long-term care insurance, the cheaper it is, the premium. The problem, of course, is if you're 18 years old, it's probably fairly cheap, but by the time you get to the point where you actually need it, it probably has cost you more than had you just paid it out. But I'm thinking 45, 50, if you've got a family history that you believe is going to cause that to be a problem, you may want to give it some serious consideration. And it's like anything else. You don't have to call your own insurance agent and say, what do you have available? Maybe his car insurance, maybe his homeowner's insurance is the cheapest they've got available, but his long-term care insurance is the most expensive available. So what you need to do is shop around as you do with anything else. You check with the BBB to make sure everything is legitimate. You check with the Attorney General to make sure there's been no complaints, or if the complaints have been filed, they're not legitimate, to make sure you're getting a good policy that does what you want at an economical cost.
Okay, good advice. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Chautauqua Sunrise. I'm Doc Hamels, and my guest is Jim Subjack. If you have any concerns or questions about elder care or about planning your estates down the road, I would guess most everybody that's watching the show right now is in that category. And we got a Twitter here. Let's see what it says here. Okay, so please feel free to call us or Twitter us. It says here, what if you get a policy and never use it? So let's say you buy the policy and you die.
Well, it's kind of like car insurance. You may never use that either.
Okay.
It's there when you need it.
Okay.
If you never use it, you don't get a refund of your premiums.
You're betting against the insurance company.
That's what you do. The only one that you ultimately succeed is life insurance.
Yeah, somebody gets a benefit somewhere. Yep. All right, number 6 on the list, not being able to drive. My dad's 91 and he drives. I would say I'd give him a A-. I'm about an A-. So, I mean, he's a really good driver, but I think that would bring somebody to their knees if they couldn't drive.
Oh, no, my mom, in her early stages of Alzheimer's, got into an accident. She actually went through a red light, hit a car. She got out, as she should have, to check to see if the occupants were okay. They were. She got back in her car and she left. She didn't know any better, so I got a phone call from the Dunkirk police and said, Jim, you need to do something about your mom. That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, is say, Mom, you can't drive anymore.
Oh, that's a killer. But yeah, so that's something to think about.
And it is.
And we forget about, I told my daughter one day, I said, if I ever act goofy, just slap me. And she looked at me and I raised her right. She goes, can I have that in writing? And I would say that to my kids today is, the things we're talking about, there may come a point in time where I may not be with it. And so I will depend on them to do the right thing. And I will put that in writing. Okay, let's keep on going here. Number 5, inability to get good health care. I think right now that's a little bit out there because of this
The Affordable Care Act?
Affordable Care Act, and there's lots of angst about all that. But what do you think?
I'm not so sure that's much of an issue anymore. Medicare insurance is very good. Medicaid insurance is very good if you have it and you need it. And that's obviously finance-based. But there's always policies available.
Supplementals.
There are. So, even under the Affordable Care Act, there's different levels of premiums that you pay and different levels of services that you can receive. I actually thought, in large part, it was a good idea because one of the things that drives health insurance up are the people that go to the emergency room with none.
Yeah.
And they run up a $2,000 bill, and you pay it and I pay it. They don't pay it.
Kind of smooths it all out.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes everybody responsible to some degree for the payment, and hopefully it does at some point drive down healthcare costs.
Okay. Number 4, and you see this on the commercials all the time, the investment guys, running out of money. I've seen statistics that show 10% of the baby boomers save for their future, and they think that they're going to survive on Social Security.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck.
Good luck is right. So any thoughts on, from a legal perspective, you said something about trusts and things like that?
Yeah, well, actually, it's the initial monies that you need to save at the beginning, which is difficult to do because when you're young, you're raising your children, and as you know, as a parent, children's expenses, number one, are steady. They're high, and a lot of them are unanticipated, but when they come up, you got to pay for them. So it's difficult to say, I'm also going to set aside X or Y number of dollars. But, you know, if you think about it and you're worried about it, and I know those that are 18, 19, 20, 25 are not so concerned, but you set aside a little bit of money, you may sacrifice something that you do. You don't go to the tavern every weekend, you go every other weekend.
Right.
The money that you would have spent on beer or liquor or food there, you set aside and put it into some type of account.
There's a behavior change.
It is.
Yeah.
And keeping in mind the running out of money, the costs that go up as you're retired and get older are the health care costs. The other expenses go down. Am I going to be taking a cruise when I'm 90 years old? Not likely. Possible if I make it that far, but some of the expenses that you now have.
Yeah, your mortgage is paid for as a rule. You buy cash for your car, or buy your cars with cash and things like that. Sure. In some cases, not all cases, obviously. But again, I think it's something for boomers to be thinking about, and those that are coming up behind us. Just start small and
even if you don't have a 401k through employment,
Yeah.
there are IRA accounts that are available. There's $6,000 if you're over 55. There's $6,500 a year. $6,000 doesn't seem like a lot, but you think about it. If you and your spouse each put in $6,000 in an IRA when you're 25, just in principal alone, in 40 years when you turn 65, that's $480,000. That's a nice chunk of change, and you're going to put it into something that makes money. That's right.
Put it all together, you know. And I think that's the whole thing that I've learned is you can't depend just on one source for your retirement. But if you put it all together with Social Security and maybe a little part-time something or other, savings, your pension if you have one, and that sort of thing, plan ahead.
Yeah, and that $12,000 that you put away in the IRAs. That's a tax deduction.
Yeah.
That makes it easier for you to spend money on other things.
You never see the money, yeah.
That's
and
right.
you're using government money to grow your money. Number 3, you already touched upon it, if you remember, loss of our mental abilities, you know.
That does scare me.
Yeah.
Only in the sense that I like to think I'm still on the top of my game, and I like to think that I know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it.
Watch the video back after today, and I think you're doing okay.
Oh, okay.
Jim, I would tell you.
Okay.
I think.
But it does scare me. I saw what happened to my mom, and she was fine. It was a kind of a gradual decline for about 3 or 4 years, and it's like she fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
And that's really scary. I mean, you don't know what she's thinking or if she is. I mean, you don't know what's going through her mind because she can't communicate it. I mean,
you know, it scares the wits out of me when I realize I just repeated myself, you know, saying something around the house where I'm like, oh my God, is that a sign of something? And it's just me. I've been doing that all my life.
So have I. So has everybody, by the way. You just think about it more when you get older.
So let's not overthink that, but that's a concern, and that's an interesting concern. Okay, number 2, inability to care for ourselves. And I guess that kind of goes back to maybe when you're on your own and if your spouse is no longer in your life, is, you know, Barb was gone for a few days, well, actually over a week to Texas to help out some family members. And I remember it's like, I got to get up, I got to do this, I got to do that. And, you know, all of a sudden it's like, there's a lot of things to do.
Boy, there are.
You don't realize what the other person in your life does.
That's right. You know what you do on your own, and you think you're doing that full time, and all of a sudden you have the added responsibility of what your spouse did for you and on your behalf and on her behalf as well. And it's like, oh my God, this is overwhelming. Yeah, my wife was gone for a week to visit our daughter a couple of weeks ago. So how am I going to do all this?
Yeah. So and then I think about, you know, our parents that are now, on their own and things like that, and they're getting up in age, and they're still doing the job, but we really got to give them a hand, and check in with them and
That's true.
lighten their load a little.
Yeah, see that when we talk about the sandwich generation, that upper crust, the middle layer, which are the children, have responsibility for their own children, but unless there's some other document that they've signed, they really have no legal obligation to help their parents. I would hope that they would, because their parents brought them up, their parents provided for them when they needed it, and when the parents need it, you'd hope that it's a reverse situation, but it isn't necessarily so.
My mom was a full-blooded Sicilian, and she had a talk with me one day.
I'll bet she did.
We're going to do it like my mother did and her mother did. She says, if I get to a point where I can be on my own and your father can't take care of me, I'm living with you. No nursing home. I go, okay. Well, fortunately, Mom lived to a ripe age of 89 and passed away in her own home, but that was her plan, is that, and we were prepared, we said, okay, we'll work it out between my brother and me, and Dad's, God love him, he's still going strong. He watches the show every week on YouTube, so keep going. Okay, the top number one concern for baby boomers, us guys, is not retirement. It's losing our health. We are so health conscious and looking good and being this and that and the other and so forth. That was interesting. I would have thought along your lines is that, not enough money or insurance and things like that. Okay, so anyways, you got to take care of yourself.
Well, that's true, but there are certain things that just are out of your control.
Absolutely. Cholesterol is inherited in some cases.
Yeah, well, I've known some people that were as physically fit as anybody within their age, and they just, it's a stroke or a clot or an embolism or just a heart attack, and they're gone, or cancer. I mean, some of the cancer is genetic. It was in my case with my father, but it's just things you can't control.
I see Dad, and I'll say, thanks, and go, for what? And I'll say, I got to take this medicine now, or whatever. He goes, and then I look at his list, like, oh, this is what I got to look forward to. Thanks a lot, Dad. Well, I said, thank you, grandfather. It's all the way down.
If you have to take all your pills at breakfast, you're not hungry anymore when you're done.
That's true. That's true. You get this pile of things. Okay, I also went on the internet, and just for fun, and I thought, well, what are the top 7 concerns or issues that families get themselves into? So you ready?
I am.
Okay. Oh, we got a phone call first.
Okay.
Good morning, caller. How are you?
I'm doing all right. My question is, it's a topic that's not necessarily everyone agrees upon. It's assisted suicide. And my question is,
good question.
How do you feel, or what legal measures are there that have to do with assisted suicide? Say someone's, 91, they have Alzheimer's, or they say beforehand, before they get Alzheimer's, if I get Alzheimer's, I don't want to go through that for 10, 20 years. How do you, is there any help out there? Obviously, a lot of people, they don't want to help with something like that, but that may be the only choice to prevent suffering.
I know, there is, but it's not here in New York. Unfortunately, hospice is a very worthy organization. Sure. I support hospice because they make life as easy and as comfortable as they can in your final days. But from a personal situation, I mentioned my dad died of prostate cancer. His last days were just miserable. He was begging to die, and there's nothing we can do about it in New York State at all. I'll tell you, one of the things, probably the thing that I am most thankful for in my 12 years as DA is that I did not have to review a case where somebody intentionally did away with a spouse or a parent because of that suffering.
Right.
Because when you think about it, under the definition in the penal law, with intent to cause the death of another, you cause that death, that's murder.
Right.
That's life in prison.
And it's premeditated.
Yeah, it is. All you're trying to do is to prevent suffering. I've owned pets, dogs mostly, but I've owned pets my entire life. In fact, a couple months ago, one got to a point where she just couldn't function anymore.
And that's
what
not natural.
Do you do?
It's not natural,
That's right. So what do? You take them to a doctor of veterinary medicine. I do too. I mean, it's really heartbreaking, but you take them to a doctor of veterinary medicine and you take them out of their suffering.
Right.
I mean, you obviously have to be determined that there's nothing more that can be done.
Professional opinion.
Why can't we do that with humans? And obviously there's people out there that are screaming at me right now saying, how can you possibly say that? How can you possibly take a life? And I don't think I could, but I think medical professionals ought to have the ability, legally, medically, and professionally, to say, this person is doing nothing but suffering. They are not going to survive more than another week or two. Their will has been and always has been demonstrated that if I get into this position, please do something to make my life end so I don't have to go through this anymore. And then think about the other part of it, which isn't really a consideration that should be very close to the top, but think about the consideration of that week to two with all the medications in the hospital, the expenses that are accruing. So it gets to a point where why can't the doctor, and obviously in consultation with the family, why can't the family go to the doctor and say, or two doctors, and say, isn't there something we can do, and say the law now provides that we can give him comfort or give her comfort, they won't feel a thing and their pain will be over.
Wow, that's a good question.
That's a great question.
Thank
It
you,
really
caller.
was.
And as you can see, folks, it's easy to call in. Jim and I, we fielded many questions, and you know, if we don't know the answer, we'll get back to you on that.
We certainly
But,
shall.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's a very interesting one. Let's ask you one of these questions here. The scenario is: Dad signed his power of attorney over to a scam artist. That ever happen?
Does it happen?
Yeah.
It does. No one's actually come to me and say, hey, I gave my power of attorney to a scam artist, unless you want to talk about one of his kids being the scam artist, because that happens too, by the way. I've heard of situations, I have professionally in the DA's office seen it, where somebody gets close, and that's the problem. You get somebody that all of a sudden takes an interest in you, and I used to go to senior groups all the time and
Worms
say,
their way into
that's
the
right.
situation.
They all of a sudden are giving you rides, they're all of a sudden they
Best
bring
buddies.
cookies, they're only in it because they want that power of attorney, so they wind up either stealing from you while you're still alive, or worming their way into your estate so they get it instead of your children or your when you
Predators.
die. There are predators. So is there a way to avoid that? Well, again, if somebody that has no relationship to you whatsoever all of a sudden becomes very interested in you, I hate to say be skeptical, because there are nice people out there that really do care about other people, but look into whatever other motives there might be for that person to do that. If you have a parent, for example, that has done that, there are ways to go to court to have that decision to have the power of attorney overturned, or in this case revoked. But you need to know about it first. So it would be nice to know, and if you've got parents, to just say, look, if you need to get to a point where you need a power of attorney, I or brother so-and-so or sister so-and-so are willing to do that on your behalf, but just to maintain some type of vigilance over what your parents are doing or your parent is doing, to see that they're not being bilked or scammed by somebody else. So there's some type of accountability, which is, hey, Mom, what's this $1,000 a week check to Mary Smith for?
Yeah.
Oh, she needs it.
Yeah.
Who is she?
Yeah.
Well, I just met her at the senior center last week. Whoa, you can't do that, Mom.
And also, establish power of attorney yourself with
Right.
your parents. We got a phone call.
Okay.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Doc.
Morning.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you?
Good, Terry.
Good.
What's up?
Well, I was just calling in to invite everybody to come out to our last night of the Town of Terror at the Children's Safety Village.
Wonderful. How's it going up there? I
It's
gave my
going
side
great.
of it.
What's that?
I told my story on it earlier. Have you had a lot of, how many people altogether do you think have come through?
Oh, golly, probably close to 1,000 people have been through.
Whoa, that's right. I forgot I wasn't there one night. What, 1,000
yeah.
people? Wow.
Yeah.
I got to ask you a question. Are people getting scared or not?
People are definitely getting scared.
Okay. So they get their money's worth.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So what kinds of things could people look forward to seeing if they come? I don't give it all away, but I mean, like, how does it work?
Well, people enter at our back gate, and there are various buildings that they will be going through. Some of the buildings have been created by some members of our community, different families that love Halloween, and they've gone together and created a building, decorated it, and they're actually being voted on at the end of it for first prize and second prize, which will be $1,000 and $500.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there's mazes, and there's all the things that you see on The Walking Dead: zombies, cannibals, all that kind of stuff.
They just put my picture up again. Somebody said I look like Bubba J that's gone zombie.
Right. But it's a good time, and it's a great cause, and we hope that people will come on out and join us.
Okay.
We also have the Headless Horsemen there.
Terry, tell us about Wednesday. I didn't have all the details. Could you share that with us?
Yeah, Wednesday night is our Halloween fun fair, and this is geared towards our little kids and families. So basically, kids 12 and under can come. They can come dressed up if they like, and they're going to trick or treat door to door in all the little buildings of the village. And there's about 28 of them.
All right.
And in addition to that, we have train rides, face painting, food for sale, cotton candy, all that kind of fun stuff.
A nice, safe, orderly event for little kids, huh? Good.
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
And it's from 4 to 8 this Wednesday, the 29th.
Okay, and that's at the Safety Village on 394, adjacent to the Hughes Educational Center, BOCES. All right,
Correct.
Terry. Well, have fun tonight, and I'll be thinking about you. I'll be up in Buffalo.
Yes. Okay.
All right, thanks for
a
calling
lot,
in.
Doc.
Good luck. Take care.
Sure. Yep.
All right. Well, we're getting down to the last 4 minutes. How'd that happen? Great conversation here. I'll throw one more question at you. You mentioned your mom's situation. The thing was here, it says, Mom never changed her power of attorney. Now she has advanced Alzheimer's and it's too late.
It is.
What do you do?
There's nothing you can do other than perhaps go into a court and apply to be appointed as the guardian of your mother. You're going to need medical proof to indicate why that's necessary.
Oh, my gosh.
But once you're able to, it should be easy. If she's treating with a physician, the
You're right.
physician should be able to say she's in advanced stages of Alzheimer's. She can no longer function on her own. She can't make decisions on her own. She needs somebody to do that for her. Unfortunately, that happens quite frequently, and people don't understand that just because you have a durable power of attorney doesn't mean that you can change it at any time. You can only change it when you're mentally competent to do so. I mean, it's a strange paradox if you think about it. In order to give somebody the ability to do the things that you need to do, you have to know that you're giving them the ability to do that, which makes sense, because that avoids the scam artist coming in and, hey,
Abuse
sign this
and
document.
things,
And that does happen.
Holy mackerel.
I've turned people down. I've gone to nursing homes and hospitals and say, I'm sorry. You say to the family, I just can't do this because I don't think they know what they're doing.
My siblings are suing me for taking care of our father. You got 1 minute on that one.
Well, good luck at that one. Unless you're wasting the assets of your father, in other words, you're charging $5,000 a week to give him a glass of water and give him his pills, which would be clearly unreasonable. If you decide to undertake the duties of taking care of a father or a parent who needs that care, I don't know what basis the other children could say, that's not fair, you shouldn't be doing it. Now, obviously, if you're neglecting or harming the person by the
Call the
physical
cops,
care,
yeah.
you call the police, you call healthcare professionals to stop it. But as far as being sued for taking care of your parents, as long as you're doing a good job and you're not doing it for ulterior motives, you should be fine.
Okay. Folks, you've been watching Chautauqua Sunrise. I'm Doc Hamels. My guest has been Jim Subjack. If you have need to look at the show again, you go on YouTube and just search for Chautauqua Sunrise and the show will come up. Jim, I want to thank you, as always, for being on the show today. I learn something all the time. So I want to extend a happy birthday one more time to our dear friend Lori Burt. Hope you have a wonderful day. Halloween is coming up, and so all you little ghosts and goblins, dress safe. It's going to be a cold night, I hear, and a little bit of rain. Watch for those folks out on the roads. I want to thank our staff here at Access 5, Chuck Kelsey, our director, Randy Bird, our cameraman here in the studio, Jeff Zook, the engineer, and Chris Burt, who is going to be our full-time IT person. He's always doing things, and he's standing on the edge of the screen here, and he's always making me nervous when he stands there. Anyways, have a wonderful week. Get out there and enjoy the beautiful weather, and happy Halloween. We'll see you next week. Here it comes. I knew it was coming. Thanks.